Protests over the expulsion of Palestinian families and Israeli raids on Al-Aqsa Mosque compound preceded Israel's heavy bombardment of Gaza. Days of heavy bombardment on the Gaza Strip intensified on Wednesday, with Israeli fighter jets bombing sites belonging to Palestinian armed groups, as well as police buildings and apartment blocks. Since the offensive began late on Monday, Gaza's health ministry says at least 53 people have been killed, including 14 children. More than 300 others have been wounded. The Israeli army said about 1,500 rockets have been fired from Gaza towards various locations in Israel, killing at least 6 Israelis. The escalation is the most intense since the 7-week 2014 Israeli war on Gaza. Here's what led to the most recent flare-up in violence. Sheikh Jarrah expulsions. Anger has been growing over the forced expulsion of Palestinian families from the occupied East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah, who have been facing multiple court cases filed against them by several pro-settler organizations since 1972. These organizations claim that land the families live on was originally under Jewish ownership, but Palestinians see this as an extension of an official Israeli policy to displace as many Palestinians from Jerusalem in order to retain a majority Jewish identity in the city. The United Nations has warned the planned expulsions could amount to war crimes. Protests and scuffles between Palestinians, Israeli settlers, and Israeli police have steadily increased since the end of April. The Israeli court in October 2020 ruled that 4 Palestinian families should vacate their homes, and gave May 2nd as the date for their forcible eviction. However, the court date has since been postponed twice. Recently, there have been confrontations as Palestinians gathered for iftar meals, the breaking of Ramadan fasts, at the homes of those being evicted. The families have since appealed to Israel's Supreme Court. On Thursday night, at least 30 people were wounded and 15 arrested. Al-Aqsa compound clashes and raids. On Friday, tens of thousands of Muslim worshippers filled the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, Islam's third holiest site, to pray on the final Friday of Ramadan, with many staying on to protest against the expulsions. Heavily deployed police fired rubber-coated bullets and stun grenades at protesters, who responded by throwing stones. Some 205 Palestinians and 17 Israeli officers were wounded. After a violent weekend, Israeli security forces on Monday conducted a flash raid on Al-Aqsa compound, again firing rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, and sound bombs at gathered worshippers, stoking international outrage and wounding more than 300 Palestinians. About 20 Israeli officers were also injured. Hamas later announced it had given an ultimatum for Israel to remove its security forces from Al-Aqsa compound and Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood by 6 p.m. local time, 1500 hours o'clock GMT. Israeli air raids, Hamas rockets. By early Tuesday morning, Hamas had fired some 200 rockets towards Israel, according to the Israeli military, including several targeted at Jerusalem, with many intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defense system. At least 2 Israelis were killed. Meanwhile, Israeli aerial attacks, which hit apartment buildings as well as other targets, killed at least 26 Palestinians, including children, health authorities in Gaza said on Tuesday. Despite international calls to de-escalate, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced on Tuesday both the might of the attacks and the frequency of the attacks will be increased on Gaza. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh told mediators the group is ready if Israel increases its attacks on the besieged Gaza Strip, saying, if they, Israel, want to escalate, the resistance is ready, and if they want to stop, the resistance is ready. UN Special